I just saw The Mummy, Lee Cronin's The Mummy. I went with my wife and we saw it last night, and I was actually kind of excited for it because I'd heard that it's Lee Cronin who did the latest Evil Dead movie, Evil Dead Rise. That film was like alright, but the practical effects, the bloodiness, the terror in it was pretty damn good. It wasn't my favorite Evil Dead movie, but it made me excited to see what he was going to bring to The Mummy. Now, after seeing that film last night, I can rightfully say that this movie sucks so much ass. And I hate saying that because there were moments in this film that were great. There were performances that were not that bad, especially for this type of film. Jack Reynor, the guy with like the crazy wide eyes because he has like the white, he is in Midsommar, and he is the boyfriend who gets burned in the bear suit at the end. I didn't even realize he was in this film until I looked it up before we saw the film, and I was like, oh crap. And he was actually my favorite part about this film. I think that he gives a very diverse performance, and with what is written for him, I think he does a damn good job. I liked seeing that he was able to bring that oh shit expression on his face, but also provide a lot more vibrance with his performance. I also thought the technical aspects of this film, the different shots, the overall composition, while I didn't like it, I could respect what it was going for. I am religious, and this film felt like it was just somewhat blasphemous in a way that was mean-spirited. That's not my cup of tea, and I think a lot of people don't mind that sort of thing, but that's not the only issue I had with it. In fact, it was like the bottom of my list for the issues. Metascore is one of the, averages of movie critics that give like a 1 to 100, or I guess 0 to 100 rating for a film. This film is currently sitting at 46 on Metascore, Metacritic, whatever you want to call it. And I think that score is too generous. Right off the bat, I would give this like a 2 out of 10, one for the technical aspects and the other for Jack Reynor's performance. But you're gonna tell me that this is The Mummy, right? And I don't even want you to compare it to the Brendan Fraser films, but this is The Mummy, and we're going with a possession route. All right, cool. So why the fuck is most of it set in New Mexico? It makes no sense. You have an opportunity, and this film is filled with so many missed opportunities, but you have an opportunity to showcase, to present, to put onto display Egyptian culture. And they show like the bare minimum of it. They do like the most obvious things that you could do with what they had in the budget, I guess. And then we spend, after not even the first act, but like the first chunk of the film, and it's a small chunk because it's the best chunk of this film, we spend that in Egypt, and then we spend the rest of it in New Mexico inside of the house. We don't even really go out unless we're with Jack or the detective trying to figure things out, and even she comes to New Mexico. Missed opportunity. That is what I would call this movie if it had a subtitle. A lot of damn good ideas that lead absolutely nowhere or just take us into a direction that I don't see why we would even go there in the first place. I'm gonna blame that on the writing of the script, and guess who wrote it? Lee Cronin. Now with both films, I think that he is very, very good. He is masterful at directing and at presenting tension, at presenting certain elements of horror. Now this film has been compared to like Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, just like Evil Dead in general, but the amount of those shots that are from Evil Dead that are in this film, it wasn't distracting, but I definitely saw that there were like copy and paste moments. And I think to pay homage is cool, and if he's trying to make that his thing, then have at it. I just feel like having that sort of style in the Evil Dead franchise that is now continuing and growing, I feel like the average audience member is just gonna say, hey, they're copying the style of the Evil Dead, when really it's Lee Cronin's style. The first thing I want to talk about is how horror has different levels of effectiveness and passion that is actually going into it. I feel like when you have someone who is directing the film and also writing the film, that's a special situation. They can really, really, really create whatever vision it is that they have for this film. They have a lot more control. So why is all this horror just for shock? We get to see crazy body horror. We get to see like kind of jump scares, just like nasty things happening on the screen. And that was like the last 3/4 of the film. The first quarter of this film was awesome. I was really, really intrigued. I think the family stuff, it was handled really well. There's a lot of questions that are brought up, and I wanted to see more of that environment, that curse, that family, the family that they do affect, Jack Reynor's family. But instead we get this cramped monster horror haunted house sort of thing where it feels like any other modern horror movie where there's demons that are infesting a home and infecting the family. It felt cheap, it felt repetitive, it felt derivative of things that are better. It felt like they were trying to make an Exorcist, like the original Exorcist movie, but but with a mummy spin, and I just don't understand that. Instead of us getting the call with Jack Reynor and his family that they found the daughter that was missing for like 7 years, why did they not just go to Egypt? Why did the script not take us, the audience and the family that we were experiencing this film through, to Egypt where we could endure more horrors? I don't know if it is a budget issue. I feel like they really missed an opportunity to make this film more grounded, but what they were going for, if that is what he was going for, where it feels mean-spirited, then they did it, and that's that. But I really thought that at the beginning of the film, this was going to be a more deep, family-driven horror movie with these supernatural extreme elements of the mummy terrorizing the family. And I guess that comes down to me because I didn't really watch the trailer. I just saw a little bit of it, which is funny because that little bit of it is from the beginning of the movie. Imagine if we even changed up the dynamic of the father with his family, where he is more of a dick. He's more of an asshole who is just focused on things like his career or things like just being the most presentable. Like he's just living in vanity. And because of that, Katie goes missing, his daughter. Because of his issues and his way of living and how he is choosing himself over the family, she goes missing and they freak out, and he has to go through a transformation over those 7 years. What if there was that just little character tweak? It gives the ending a lot more of a bittersweet, heartwarming ending. I mean, it was like emotional, I guess, but it felt forced. It felt, like I said, derivative of things that have done it better, like The Exorcist, because that is almost exactly how The Exorcist ends, with the self-sacrifice to make sure that the little girl is good and that the demon goes somewhere else. Or if we just want to keep him a good dad, because this film starts off and we have these elements of family where it's like the families are complete, or they feel complete, but not quite because of the demon. But once the demon is gone, they're allowed to be complete again. And so if Jack Reynor was to be the great dad that he was in the movie, that he is in the movie at the start, why do we have to have that bittersweet ending where he becomes the mummy? I feel like that in itself just kind of drags the film down. It drags the ending, I feel like it drags the ending down and the overall championship winning feeling that it would be allowed to give. Missed opportunity. Now, one thing I did like about Jack Reynor's character is that he is a journalist, and we don't really see him doing anything crazy. At first I thought he was like an archaeologist or something, but he's a journalist, and apparently he's like one of the best ones, or he's got a hot career, I don't know, they don't really go into it, but they kind of touch on it, so it's ambiguous. But a missed opportunity with that element of his character is that they could have had a section of the film where he is actually investigating, like doing Batman detective work. Instead, we get a few like just completely script driven, like this is what's happening, XYZ, make sure you're listening as the audience, and then it drives us into more of the bullshit that happens at the house. I think the detective stuff, I think him looking into the legend of this demon would be way more terrifying than the stupid grandma scene. And let's talk about that, the grandma death scene. When I said blasphemous at the beginning, this is like what I'm talking about. They have this sort of Jesus isn't even here. They use the crucifix that the grandma's wearing to choke her out and like basically lead to her death. And they do it in a way where there's like humor interjected, where the little girl is saying things like, it's okay to die, or it's fun to die, or something. And she's like saying these little quippy things that you would have the Deadites from Evil Dead saying. So that's where the similarities are drawn. But the humor is so tonally dissonant. Like it couldn't be further from what they presented at the start. At the start, it feels like this deeper dread and like something like terrible is gonna happen. But then through these scenes in the house where the demon is doing things like manifesting whatever, they write it as if it's like a horror comedy. And then on top of that, the graphic nature of it all isn't done in a quick, snappy way. It's done in kind of like a lingering way, which is more so in that dreadful type of film. So when you have these jokes and these sort of like pauses for laughter, it just feels off. It doesn't feel off in a way that is good for a horror film, in my opinion. It's just that it feels off, and it's like uncomfortable, not in a disgusting way, but in a this kind of sucks sort of way. And then at the end, they have the grandma fall out and she like rolls over the car, and then the dogs, it's like a quick cut as if it's a comedy movie where we see the dogs eating all of her insides, and then this song, I don't even remember what it was, but it's basically using the lyrics in the song that are being sung by the singer as a punchline. And it's like basically like grandma got killed, ha ha ha. And we pause on that and have the song for like 5-ish seconds, and it feels like a sitcom where you have pauses for the audience to laugh. Like it was very forced, and it was like, I don't find find this funny, so I'm just sitting here for 5 seconds thinking about the joke that I don't like in your movie. And I do not mind stuff like that. You think of like The Monkey that came out pretty recently, or any type of horror comedy, Ready or Not 2. There's a way to make it funny. There's a way to make it snappy and just quick cut and just move fast. But when you have these two totally opposite things that are within this very niche genre, it doesn't feel right to have them mushed together and weaved in. And talking about what the fuck scenes, when they were moving her in to the house, there is like a 10-20 second just joke or scene. I don't know what exactly it is, but the way that it's shot, the way that the sound is just thumping. They have this girl who is fresh out of the tomb and she's like fucked up, and the mom and the dad are on either side of the wheelchair handles dragging her up the stairs in the most rough way possible. And part of me was laughing because of how ridiculous it was, but then the other part of me was like, this is really stupid, because in real life you'd either have two people on each end just like actually lift it up and walk up the stairs, you'd have some ramp or something installed that would allow them to go up. And I know it's been like like a week or so or whatever, but you can pay for expedited services, come on guys. Or you just wouldn't even show it, because the intention of that scene is to what? Show us she's going up to her room. We could just quick cut to her in her room sitting in her bed. We can put that together. It is intentionally trying to be a joke, I suppose, and it just does not work. It does not work, because that entire 20 seconds I'm sitting there thinking these characters are stupid for choosing to do this, but then we're supposed to think that they're smart for piecing things together. We're supposed to think that these characters are reliable and good, but they're doing decisions like this for the daughter that they supposedly love and care about. Before they even met her, the doctor said, do not do any sudden movements, do not like have her move or like do anything like that. And they choose to lift her up the stairs by going boom, 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 every single step. It is that tonal dissonance I'm talking about. You're trading intelligent characters with intelligent decision making for a joke that lasts too long. And there's many moments in this film where it feels like, hey, we're gonna write this as a joke and something is gonna be a punchline right at the end, or the character is gonna say something, like when they're interrogating Jack Rayner and his wife. I think that's the first joke that is just like, oh, this is what we're gonna be doing with the humor, where it is so intense. They're in like an interrogation room talking to the Egyptian police, and it's filmed like a drama. It's filmed like just darkly lit, but well lit. Everyone is giving a great performance, specifically Jack Rayner, and he builds up this anger because they are talking in Egyptian, and he builds up this anger because the Egyptian police are talking about him, not in English, and he's like, hey, you don't know what you're talking about? I did not abduct my daughter. And he like slams his hand on the table and does these things, and it is like an intense scene. And then all of a sudden the senior inspector says that he does not recognize his face because the other inspector said that he's like a reporter. And again, there's like a pause for the sitcom laughs for us as an audience to be like, oh, but that was not the scene that we were just watching. We were not watching something humorous. We were not having anything that was allowing us to get in that space. We had this nice, suspenseful sequence that just had a joke on the end. I wanted to like this film. I really did. I love Egyptian mythology. I love ancient history. I love demonic possession. All of the elements in this film should have been perfect, right up my alley, but this was just not a good film. Again, I can respect the acting performances. I can respect the technical aspects, the directing of it, but I think where the major issues are, the script. They needed a better script. And if they wanted to do this exorcism type of demonic possession haunted house film, they should not have called it The Mummy. They should not have said this is like the next thing. And that's part of my issue with all the other monster movies like Invisible Man and Wolfman. The pattern is just a family is experiencing something awful within that isolated location of the family. And you can do that with any monster. You could create the Boogie Dude, for crying out loud, and have the exact same script and nobody would know or care. It feels like they're taking these universally known names, universal monsters, and slapping it on these generic ass scripts so that everyone just comes and watch it. More people come and watch it, because if this wasn't called The Mummy, I may or may not have checked it out. And the saddest thing about this film is that 2017 Tom Cruise Mummy is a better film than this one. That should tell you a lot. Peace out.